Latest news headlines from ITN.
Good afternoon. Leading Protestant churchmen in Northern Ireland say they're prepared to hold conditional talks with the IRA. They've called on all churchmen and politicians to crawl out of the pit of non-dialogue. The leaders of the four main political parties had talks today with the Northern Ireland Secretary, Peter Brook.
There were moves aimed at dialogue towards peace on two fronts this morning. The politicians were meeting Northern Ireland Secretary Peter Brook at Stormont Castle to formalise a new start to his political initiative. Meanwhile, leading clergymen from the Presbyterian Church were talking about their personal initiative to speak to the men of violence. Two former moderators who have had direct talks with the loyalist paramilitary Ulster Defence Association called on other churchmen and politicians to tackle the tragedy of Ulster at its roots.
Churchmen, newsmen, politicians, and we've got to try and crawl out of the pit that we're getting into.
Nationalist SDLP leader John Hume was at the Stormont talks this morning. He's calling on the Catholic Church to have similar dialogue with the IRA. Inter-party talks this side of a general election are bound to be more about symbolism than any real political substance. But after 6 months of the Brook initiative being in limbo, the mere fact that the four party leaders will be around the same table, no matter what the general election result, is bound to be a hopeful sign for political progress here. Andrew Simmons, ITN at Stormont.
The Conservatives were on the attack over tax today. They said Labour's plans would knock British industry for six. Labour responded by accusing the Tories of planning to extend VAT to new house sales and transport.
Conservatives introduced the new phrase into the political vocabulary today, a double whammy. What did it mean?
Double blow. Oxford English Dictionary.
According to the Conservatives, Labour would, with the aid of this double whammy, knock British industry for six, first by putting up interest rates by 2.5%.
A Labour government would mean an immediate 2.5% increase in interest rates.
Voters might be frightened by that. The Labour Party had an even more alarming prediction of what the Conservatives would do if they were re-elected. VAT on new homes, and they say on rail fares as well. The price of a new house would rise if that happened from 77 to 91,000.
Tory sums just don't add up. There is a gaping hole in their policies which must be filled.
The Liberal Democrats' chosen target of the day, education.
Under the Conservatives, education policy has become divisive and centralist. And if Labour got their hands on it, it would become bureaucratic and timorous.
A man who towed a car at speeds of more than 100 miles an hour along the M4 has been banned from driving for 6 months. Martin Barnes was also sentenced to 200 hours community service by magistrates at Chippenham in Wiltshire. Police videoed Barnes towing the Rover car as he overtook their unmarked vehicle in the outside lane. At one point he was travelling at 105 miles an hour. He admitted a charge of reckless driving. And a 2-mile section of the M4 is still closed, blocked by a 2,000-ton bridge. Attempts to remove the bridge near the River Severn in Avon are behind schedule. Engineers have been having emergency talks with Department of Transport officials.
This is the bridge which wasn't safe enough to leave, but rapidly became too dangerous to move. When the 2,000-ton Ingst Bridge wore out, the experts decided the least disruptive way of replacing it would be to lift it up whole and drive it to a lay-by to break up. The job, which involved closing the M4, was supposed to be finished by 6 a.m. on Sunday. The first sticking point in the £300,000 operation was appropriately enough mud. The contractors finally got the bridge moving on Saturday, but they only got it around 50 yards down the road when it began to show considerable signs of breaking up.
And that's the main news so far. The next bulletin from ITN will be at the usual time of 5:40. But from tonight it has a new look and a new presenter. Join John Suchet for the early evening news. But from me, good afternoon.